Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope everyone's doing really well. If you're new to the channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I post content that revolves around Baldur's Gate 3, and there will be many more videos like this to come out in the future. So let's do this. Here are 30 tips on Baldur's Gate 3 Rapid Fire. Last thing, if you want a full list of all the tips, I will leave a mega link down below in the description, so you can click on it, open it up in a different screen, and have it there while you play. Tip number 1, you can throw potions down at party members or at a group of party members for heals. Tip number 2, you can trade items with your party members by tapping the tap key instead of going through each player and hitting I to open inventory. Tip number 3, you can use Mage Hand to shove enemies off of cliffs, edges, or any dark hole. Tip number 4, use crates and barrels to stack them up to give any archers an advantage on any attacks. They have a high ground. Tip number 5, you can also use crates and boxes to block entry points and exits for enemies. So if you have someone trapped in the room and they want to run away, put a box down. They ain't going nowhere. Tip number 6, you can trade with the enemy you're about to fight or pickpocket them in order to take away their loot so they have nothing to fight you with. Tip number 7, trader and merchants' inventories will change every time you level up. So if your main character levels up one time and you go back and check, their inventory is different. If a side character of a party member, such as Gale or Shadowheart, levels up, the merchant's inventory will be different once again. New potions, new gear, and the gold will be back up. Tip number 8, to manage what your character can and can't wear, and to see how many items you have in that one slot, like boots, gloves, chest plates, and hats, you can hover over that in your inventory, and an items bar will pop up with what you can and can't wear. Tip number 9, cantrips do not take up level 1 or level 2 spots. You can continually spam those spells. Tip number 10, you can combo spells such as grease and fire, water and electricity, water and ice, and so on. Tip number 11, the tilt key on your keyboard will allow you to see all the enemies that you're fighting in combat with. Hold the tilt key down and it'll show you an outline of where they are. Tip number 12, if you're over encumbered and you have too much weight, go to your inventory. In the top left, you can sort by, and you want to sort by weight. The first couple items usually weigh the most. Tip number 13, hover over an enemy or a NPC, hold T down, and you get to see their stats. Tip number 14, when you go to camp and take a long rest, you never want to click on autofill. You always want to do it by hand, because if you do autofill, it could overfill the amount you need without you knowing. Tip number 15, if you hold shift down at any point, it will show you the vision line of any enemy or NPCs around you. Tip number 16, shift plus C together will put the whole group in a crouch mode. Tip number 17, when you're in a dungeon or in a cave system and you go back to camp, instead of putting you way back in the camp that's outside, it will put you in a tiny camp in the cave. Tip number 18, you can mark items to move to another inventory or another person with control plus left click, then drag and drop it to another inventory. Tip number 19, if you're a rogue or if you want to sneak off alone, quickly press G and it will remove you from the group so that you can sneak off alone. Tip number 20, when you're in your inventory and you have a couple items you want to quickly send to another party member, just drag and drop those items onto the left side of the avatar and it will send everything to them. Tip number 21, when you want to do a large selection in your inventory, you want to hold down shift while left clicking the top left all the way down to the bottom right, and then drag and drop where you want to put that. Tip number 22, are you tired of dealing with your weight? Just remember, you can send all of that supplies to your camp, and then when you get to the trader, right before you trade, you can go back to your camp, collect all those things, leave camp, and then it will take you back to the trader you want to trade with. Tip number 23, keep all long rest supplies at your camp. Don't personally carry on your characters because you're wasting space and you're wasting weight. Tip number 24, what is an advantage versus a disadvantage? Well, an advantage means when you roll the dice to hit or cast an ability, you add another dice and you take the best number out of the two. For example, a 5 and a 15. An advantage will give you the 15. Now, a disadvantage is the opposite of that. You roll 2 dice and you take the worst one. Tip number 25, you can autosave by pressing F5. Tip number 26, you can change the dice you use before rolling the ability. At the bottom left of the screen, there's a dice, click on it, and it'll give you the options of what you can change it to. Tip number 27, any character that can cast spells give all the scrolls to them, put the scrolls in the bag, and then put the bag into your hotkey. So when you want to cast a scroll, just click on the bag, and it's right there. Tip number 28, holding down left alt when you're in a room with a bunch of supplies will show you interactable items that you might have missed before on the ground or anywhere. Tip number 29, you can hit switches with ranged weapons or mage hand. Last tip, tip number 30, the amount of light in a room or around you will affect your stealth. So make sure before you stealth, put out all the lights. Here's 2 extra tips for you guys. Tip number 31, if you're playing Baldur's Gate 3 on Steam, on your PC, on Windows, holding down Shift and Tab will allow the Steam menu to pop up, and then on the bottom there's Steam Notes. Open the notes, and then write down anything you did during this session so you can remember what you did in the future. If you know already you won't play for a long time. Then tip number 32, you can actually change the spells you have prepared by pressing K. Just select the spells that you have already prepared, and then go through and select the ones you want to use now. Alright guys, there are 30 plus tips for Baldur's Gate 3 that were rapid fired off to you. If any of these tips were useful, or you didn't know them, or they were a surprise, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Once again, I'll be posting a lot more videos like this that revolves around Baldur's Gate 3. So be sure to leave a like and subscribe, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.